Jalen Carter is headed back to Athens after what should have been a day of celebration. Athens Clark County Police issued 2 warrants for Carter in connection with the January crash. Indicate both vehicles switched between lanes, drove in a center turn lane, and drove in the opposing traffic lanes.
The Philadelphia Eagles were one of the most aggressive teams in the NFL draft, trading up to the 9th overall pick to select what some were calling the best overall player in the entire NFL draft. There were just some questions about some situation that he had off the field. And it looks like there's a bit of an update on that situation. So before we get to the content, when we hit 700,000 subscribers, we're going to be giving away $500 for 5 followers that subscribe and turn on our notifications on this channel. And now that we get all that out of the way, this is the closest we're ever going to get to being given free money. Joel Embiid just needs to score 1 point in Game 7. So here are my picks. I'm going to have Joel Embiid getting 1 point at minimum. And then I have Jaylen Brown with a combined 9.5 rebounds and assists. I'm putting in 25 to hopefully make 75. And I'll keep you guys posted on my Instagram story. And make sure you use my promo code Mikerophone so they can match your initial deposit up to $100. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The first time I heard about Jalen Carter was during the 2021 NCAA season, where the Georgia Bulldogs created one of the most iconic defenses in college football history. And when you take a look at what happened with most of the players on their roster, it's actually pretty phenomenal. It seems like a large portion of these players all made it to the NFL draft. I mean, let's just start with 2022. Trayvon Walker was selected with the #1 overall pick. Jordan Davis was selected number 13 overall by the Philadelphia Eagles. Quay Walker went number 22 to the Packers, and Devontae Wyatt also went number 28 to the Packers. Nakobe Dean would go in the 3rd round to the Eagles in 2022 as well. And then you had this year, where we're only going to cover defense just for time's sake, but Jalen Carter went to the Philadelphia Eagles, Nolan Smith went to the Philadelphia Eagles, and Keely Ringo also went to the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, by the way, the Philadelphia Eagles also traded for DeAndre Swift, who also played for the Georgia Bulldogs when he was in college. My point being that this defense was absolutely loaded with talent, and you could just tell based upon where their careers went following their success winning a championship. And throughout the entire pre-draft process, Jalen Carter was without a doubt one of the most intriguing prospects in the entire NFL draft. A player that, based upon his skill alone, was expected to get selected with a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. A lot of people thought that he was going to be the first non-quarterback prospect off of the board. And then some strange news about Jalen Carter would come out. The first of this strange news was none other than Todd McShay saying this.
Agree. It doesn't take a super scout to figure out that he's a phenomenal player in the interior. It's early in the process, but I'm forewarning everyone out there. Carter, there's some character issues. Does he get along with everybody? What's he like to deal with in the locker room?
Immediately upon hearing this, I think whenever you automatically label a human being as someone that has character issues, you should do some more research. And by the way, this is a news video. We're going to get you a full documentary on Jalen Carter upon your request. So if that's something you guys would like to see, let us know in the comment section down below. But Jalen Carter would respond to Todd McShay saying this.
It didn't affect me. I'm always a positive guy. I look at the positive side. I never look at the negative. I try to stay away from that. And when it came out, I really didn't pay no mind to it. I just talked to my team and told them, let's keep going.
Was it easy to shrug it off, or did it, like at first, did it kind of hit you? Was it right away? I don't care. Or did it take a minute to kind of let go of?
No, it didn't take a minute to let go of it. I really let it go as soon as I first heard it. And I just kept moving on. I told my team, let's do it. Let's just go to the playoffs and ball out.
And on top of that, you would see a bunch of pieces coming out about how great of a guy Jalen Carter is. I mean, stories about him paying for his teammate who didn't get free meals because he was a walk-on. Stuff that really counteracted the fact that he had character issues. And what I think McShay was trying to say here wasn't necessarily that Jalen Carter had character issues in the sense that he was a bad person or didn't have his priorities straight, but as a young man, he may have made made some pretty dumb decisions. And to be honest, man, when you're 22 years old, you're bound to make some stupid decisions. All you could hope is you learn from those decisions and you don't repeat those mistakes. You guys know where this story is about to go. Jalen Carter would have a very interesting combine because, well, it would be non-existent. The morning of the combine, Jalen Carter had a warrant out for his arrest as a result of an ongoing investigation into a January 15, 2023 fatal crash that occurred in the 900 block of Barnett Shoals Road. The Athens Clark County Police Department had secured arrest warrants for Jalen Carter for reckless driving and racing. The investigation found that Chandler LaCroix, driver of the 2021 Ford Expedition, and Jalen Carter, driver of a 2021 Jeep Trackhawk, were operating their vehicles in a manner consistent with racing shortly after leaving the downtown Athens area at about 2:30 a.m. The evidence demonstrated that both vehicles switched between lanes, drove in the center turn lane, drove in the opposite lanes of travel, overtook other motorists, and drove at high rates of speed in an apparent attempt to outdistance each other. I gotta admit, that is an extravagant way of defining racing. Evidence indicated that shortly before the crash, the Expedition was traveling at about 104 miles per hour. Toxicology report indicated that LaCroix's blood alcohol concentration was 0.197 at the time of the crash. Investigators determined that alcohol impairment, racing, reckless driving, and speed were significant contributing factors to the crash. The case will be given to the Solicitor General's office. I think we've covered this story very much in depth in our last video, but for those of you guys that don't know what occurred, shortly after the Georgia Bulldogs won their national championship, on a night where Chandler LaCroix, Devin Willock, and Jalen Carter went out to the same location, they all decided to get into separate cars and race each other at 2:30 in the morning. Chandler LaCroix is a University of Georgia staffer and had Devin Willock in her vehicle, and they raced Jalen Carter, which at this point we don't really know if Jalen Carter was under the influence of anything. The result of Chandler LaCroix and Devin Willock getting drunk and racing against Jalen Carter eventually ended in tragedy, where Chandler LaCroix and Devin Willock would both lose their lives as a result of the incident. Now, as time went on, we would find out that Chandler LaCroix did have a history of speeding on 4 different occasions in October 2016, March 2017, October 2020, and October 2022. And there's even footage of Jalen Carter right after the incident talking to the police.
You guys racing to Waffle House? Because I can tell you right now from looking at the damage to that car, they were moving.
Yeah, they was drunk.
Okay.
That's
What makes you say that?
Because I seen him downtown, but I wouldn't say like I was with them. I was just walking.
And to be honest, what's shocking to me about this entire situation is when Jalen Carter claimed that the officer was trying to get something out of the situation, when we would eventually find out what would actually have happened.
I don't know. I feel like he's trying to get something out of his son. So we gonna see.
So I'm not trying to get anything out of you. I'm just trying to find out how this happened, what you saw of it, because you're a witness, right?
Now, of course, this is all a very tragic situation. And since then, Jalen Carter would be questioned about this repeatedly, even on the happiest moment of his life where he got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. Howie Roseman was questioned about the situation, and he actually stood up for Jalen Carter. Watch.
Feeling on a Zoom call right after the pick. It's only a Zoom call. He just got drafted. I understand it's kind of unusual circumstances for the kid. But he was asked a few times about the incident in Athens, and he didn't come across, at least to me, as accountable about it. I know you guys are big on accountability.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair, Ruben. You just said that. I mean, what do you want him to talk about? An active investigation at that time? I mean, at the end of the day, he just got drafted, and you're asking him, you're putting him on the spot on that, and so.
What I'm asking is, what was his? When you talk to him about it,
I think it's hard on a Zoom to feel out a person's heart and their accountability.
Talking about that with you and what he learned from it, how he grew from it.
Yeah, I just don't think it's fair how you said that you didn't feel like
You're
that.
being overly critical of a kid who's trying to enjoy the best night of his life.
I mean, Jason Kelsey is excited about Jalen Carter joining the Philadelphia Eagles as well.
I was definitely very happy they took Jalen Carter. I think most mocks didn't have him falling that low. Big question about Jalen is character concerns, right? Obviously, it's a concern whenever there's character stuff out there, and you have to do homework and you have to vet different sources that you trust. But man, I think that people do a lot of growing in college. People do a lot of growing after college. I mean, these are still, by all intents and purposes, they're still young men.
And personally, I think the Philadelphia Eagles once again had a remarkable offseason, and I'll say it over and over again. From the time that they re-signed Jalen Hurts all the way to their selection of Jalen Carter in the NFL draft, which I think was a very worthy risk, especially to make up for the void that Javon Hargrave left when he left the Eagles. Okay, it's fine. Okay, I'll stop praising them so much. Come back, I'll stop praising them so much. He's a Cowboy fan. All the way to their addition of Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo, and of course trading for DeAndre Swift. I want you guys to know I am all on board with the decisions that the Philadelphia Eagles made, and just from the perspective of calculating the risk to reward ratio in getting these players, I think they did a phenomenal job, and this is coming from a Cowboy fan. But there is a question about whether or not Jalen Carter's off the field situation could affect him in the NFL. The very first thing that I thought was a little weird was right when Jalen Carter reunited with Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, and Keely Ringo, well, they posted this video onto their Instagram story. I really am a huge fan of the lyrics that are popping up on screen, but even more so, I think it's hilarious that it's Jalen Carter driving, dancing, and like throwing up signs to the camera, given everything that's going down. Now, am I saying that he doesn't have a right to do that? No, he can do whatever the hell he wants. It's just really interesting because of the situation he's going through currently, and it seems like the situation he's going through is escalating as well. Now, this is coming to us from multiple sources, but we're going to bring it to you via WSB TV. The father of Devin Willock, which is the player whose life ended in the crash, filed a $40 million lawsuit against the Athletic Association and Jalen Carter. So I have some mixed feelings about this, but let's get to the report first. The father of a University of Georgia player killed in a car crash in January filed a lawsuit on Tuesday against the University of Georgia Athletic Association, a former UGA football star, and several other defendants. Devin Willock and recruiting analyst Chandler LaCroix died in a January 15 crash that happened hours after the football program held a back-to-back championship parade in Athens. Recruiting analyst Victoria Bull and offensive lineman Warren McClendon survived the crash. The lawsuit names that the UGAAA and several of its staff members, LaCroix's estate, former UGA star Jalen Carter, Sarchione Auto, and Toppers International Strip Club. Athens police say LaCroix was driving the SUV that crashed. The lawsuit alleges Carter was driving on a suspended Florida license and was racing the SUV driven by LaCroix at a speed of more than 100 miles per hour before the crash. Carter pleaded no contest on a misdemeanor charge related to the crash and is serving 12 months probation. Willock's father, Dave Willock, and the Willock estate are seeking $30 million from the defendants in compensatory damages and an additional $10 million in punitive damages from Carter, according to the documents. Here's the thing, and I guess at this point I could kind of understand why there's questions about Jalen Carter's character, because honestly, if you have a suspended license and you're racing a drunk driver hours after you guys held a championship parade, that's not necessarily A tier or S tier decision making. There is a threshold in which I am willing to forgive a human being and say, hey, this is just a young man that's making a dumb mistake. But in the case of Carter, it seems like this is a repeat offense. Jalen Carter has received multiple citations in the past in regards to driving. On June 2019, he received a warning regarding his dealer tag, which, all right, whatever, we're not really gonna take that seriously. But on June 19, 2022, he received a citation for a disabled vehicle. And then on September of 2022, he was clocked driving a Jeep Cherokee at 89 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. Then he also received 2 other citations at the time for the Jeep Cherokee's front windshield tint and material that obstructs vision. So the fact that this has been a problem for him in the past, and obviously the previous problems are nowhere to this magnitude, and then to go out and race someone that was drinking and driving is just a horrific decision. But at the same time, I think he's a young man, and I don't think he deserves to lose his life to this. He's very lucky that he isn't Chandler LaCroix, who made the decision to get behind the wheel when she drank, which is horrible, and then tragically lose her life. He does have the opportunity to learn from this mistake. So one would hope that he decides to really make this a point of emphasis and really really make sure he doesn't put himself into situations like this again. In terms of Devin Willock's father, I don't blame him for filing this lawsuit. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh yeah, he's just trying to pursue a bag. Let's just take a step back and like be a little bit more human about this. This is a man that lost their child. I don't have a child, and I can't even imagine what that could mean to someone. But on top of that, I think the greatest pain that any human being could ever endure is the pain of loss. Losing someone that you're close to. At some point or another, either you or someone close to you is going to pass away, or you might go through a breakup, or just one of your best friends might move away and you may never see him again. Obviously, those are different levels of loss, but they're all very painful, and I think it's the worst pain that you could ever endure. I just have tremendous empathy for Devin Willock's father, and I don't blame him for doing whatever it makes sense in his head to try to get justice for his son's passing. I think the whole situation is horrible. I hope that Jalen Carter could learn from the situation and he could go on to have a nice career in the NFL. And I hope the LaCroix family and the Willock family both have peace as a result of this. I don't necessarily know how far this could go in terms of Jalen Carter's career. Hopefully it doesn't escalate to a point where it affects his career, but for me, I believe this is 100% a civil case, so we'll keep you guys posted on this channel. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.